So, so I want to thank the Royal Irish Academy for this opportunity to give an account of the work that we've been doing at Doolin, at Ballaghaline and Doolin. Some of you would know it from the references as Fisher Street. So this is a work in progress. The excavations are ongoing, so we have very little post-ex done, except for the radiocarbon dates, which really is what I'm going to show you today. But I'll give you a short introduction to the site and the archaeology and the previous investigations that took place there. Then our surveys and monitoring and the excavation and finds, and then finally the radiocarbon dates that we've got from the site. So the site is in northwest Clare, on a very exposed coastline, and it's between Doolin pier and where the River Aille goes into the sea, and it's on that stretch of coastline that storm beach that we do our excavations, quite close to the river. So this is just an aerial view of the site, and you can see, just going a little bit closer, what that storm beach looks like. And you've got this very flat limestone pavement, and you can see where the sea is breaking that up. So that's an ongoing erosion, and when the storms come, they throw the boulders right up onto the storm beach, and then at the head of the storm beach you have the sand dunes. And at the east end of the beach is where the river goes into the sea, and beyond that then are the shale cliffs that go right down as far as the cliffs of Moher. So you've got here the meeting point between the shale in the southern part and the very end of the Burren limestone, where they meet there at the river. And that's looking north or looking west, and you can see the Aran Islands out there in the distance. So it's a very, very rough and exposed coastline. It's a beautiful place to work, but a very daunting place at times. So the archaeology sites in the area are quite a few, as you can see there, most of them up on the limestone, the Burren limestone there. Most of the sites you're looking at there are early medieval ring forts and castles and the like. But what's of significance to us is down at here, overlooking the site, there's barrows on the cliff overlooking the site, and up in Tirgoneen there's the early Neolithic court tomb, which is just a little bit later than our site, than our work. So we've been excavating there down at the shoreline. But what was even more important to us is the work that Matilda Knowles and the Limerick Field Club did in the late 1890s, when they investigated the sand dunes in County Clare. And at Fisher Street, as they called it at the time, they found lots of roughouts, or axes as they call them at the time, hammerstones and flakes. And this is one of her drawings that she published in the Limerick Field Club Journal. And that material is both in the National Museum in Dublin and in the Limerick Museum. Quite a lot of it is in the Limerick Museum. And that's a photograph there on the left. You can see a broken roughout, which is the one that's in her drawing, and also one of the flakes that she drew. So at the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, we had severe storms, which washed away a lot of the sand dunes at the time and exposed a very large area of clay. And when we invested that clay area, this is what it looks like. It was at the head of the beach, and you can see the clay layer. And within that clay layer, we found a lot of archaeological material. Now, we'd been conscious of that clay layer there. We'd visited several times before, but the storm certainly opened it up and showed us that there was a lot of archaeological material there. So on account of that, we set up a survey area across that section of the beach. And there's the survey area. And what we did was we GPS markers on the limestone. I don't know if you can see the yellow marker there just in the foreground. We put those every 10 metres for 250 metres along the coast, so that we could then accurately record both the clay layers and any surface finds that we found. And that's what the clay layer looks like in among the boulders. There's one of them there. And we recorded those, and whether there was material in them eroding from them, and whatever surface finds we gathered. And we found a lot of surface finds that time, which were mainly the result of the very large storms and some very big roughouts, as you can see there in the top left, and a hammerstone and a broken roughout at the bottom, and lots of flakes, very similar to Noel's material. On account of the ongoing erosion, we realised that the material was being washed away regularly. So we applied for a licence to excavate, and this has been going on since. So it's really a rescue excavation that we do, and what it involves is continuous monitoring of the storm beach. And then when a suitable clay layer is exposed, if there's suitable material in it, we have to excavate it immediately. We can't delay, even a day or two, and we can lose it. So we have to respond immediately. So to date, we have 7 main trenches excavated, including and in those 7 trenches, there are about 20 sub-trenches. And the finds include shale axe roughouts, hammerstones, numerous snapped flakes and blades, and we found some other tools as well. And the lithics are regularly found in clusters. So there, that shows you our trenches that we've excavated to date along that section. So the ones in the centre are the first 2 trenches that we excavated. But since then, the erosion seems to be at the eastern end of the beach mainly. And we've gone up to trench number 7, which was excavated this year. And you can see that the trenches are moving back up the beach as the erosion continues. So we're visibly seeing the erosion of the clay layer. Trenches 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. If you went down there today, there's no clay left at that level. We're back now as far as trench 7, which we excavated. We got 2 opportunities this year, once in April, and there about a few weeks ago it opened up again and we were able to finish that trench. And you can see where it is. So the next time there's a storm, that the clay that's left there will be moved and it will be back up to another section. So there doesn't seem to be any end to this. It's ongoing all the time. So we're excavating in difficult circumstances, as you can see, a very exposed place. We've got to be very careful about the tides because it's a dangerous beach. A lot of people drowned there in the past, so we've got to be very careful. But we're well used to it now, and I have an extremely great bunch of volunteers who come at a moment's notice. And it's the only way it works, because if we find a suitable area, we have to check with the tides, and if it's suitable, we have to go down and excavate it immediately, because and you can see we even have done some sieving there when it's suitable as well. And this is the trench that we've excavated this year, quite a long trench 7, that became exposed, and you can see us working in it there. That's just another view. So that's the sort of area we're in, and it's a beautiful place to work, but as I say, quite a daunting place at times. That's what the clay layer, the bottom one there, shows you what the clay layer looks like, with some of the flakes protruding from it, and then the upper photograph is a post-X. And you can see that we can't put in nice rectangular trenches. The shape of our trench is what's provided to us by nature. Whatever big boulders are there, we can obviously remove the smaller ones, but we have to take that as the shape of our trench. But we tie it in with our GPS marks, so we've all very accurately recorded. These are some of the finds that we've been come across over. I'm just showing you a small sample of them. I haven't time to show. I could keep you here all day showing you hundreds of hammerstones and roughouts. But you've got 2 hammerstones there, an elongated one up on the top left, and a broken roughout. So roughouts are sort of the object that they're making on site. And here, sometimes they're almost complete and they've discarded them. And I feel that what's happened here is that the napper has taken off a flake that's so big that it has actually destroyed the potential of turning it into an axe, and it's been disregarded. Now, I think some of the large flakes that are taken off are also used as tools or scrapers or knives in their own right. But in this case, there again, another roughout that has got very large flakes taken from it, probably in error, and then the piece was discarded. Going back to hammerstones in the clay and a large, long roughout and some flakes. This is the type of thing we're excavating. In drier conditions, they look a bit clearer there. when the material has come out of the clay. We've had a handful, in all the years, we've had a handful of finished axes. And that's one on the left there, you can see, and you can see the ground cutting blade end of it. Funnily enough, all the ones we found are quite small. And I'm not sure that they're finished on site. I don't think they are. I think these are tools that the knappers probably had with them and left on the site for one reason or another. And the other one there is a lovely, large, rough-out, beautiful piece. And I'm not sure why it was abandoned, but because certainly with another little bit of flaking, and it could have been ground into a very fine axe, but it was left there for us to find. This is a hammerstone with some of the associated flakes. A very nice semi-elongated one. And you can see the abraded end, and the other end of it was just as abraded. Here in Trench 1, which we excavated early on, there's an example of what we're finding, clusters of flakes. And in the top photograph there, you can see a cluster of flakes. And then when we excavated that, we came down on a blank layer of clay. And we thought that was the end of it. So when we removed that, underneath we found this blank, what I call a blank axe, sitting on another cluster. So finding these blanks on the side, they're cobbles that are shaped like an axe naturally. No work done to them. And yet they're leaving them on the site. And this was the first one we found. It was obviously clearly visible that whoever was napping at the lower level, when they finished their work, they left this blank on top of the flakes that they had napped. And a period of time, which we'll see in a minute what it's like over time when we come to the dates. And then later on, someone came along and napped in exactly the same place up above that. So we got some good stratigraphy there. We don't get great stratigraphy in the clay, or it's doubtful because it's such a homogeneous, it's so homogeneous that it's hard at the time to distinguish any differences in the layer. And we don't sure about how much the clay, being a soft material at times when it's wet, how it moves around. But certainly we got very good stratigraphy in this case. So the dates, moving to the dates. As I say, it's really the only part of the post-ex that's been done to date. So 22 dates, I've got 22 dates from the site, and 12 of these have been provided by the Royal Irish Academy. And for that, I'm really grateful, because all of the excavation and post-ex works to date has been voluntary. And I have to commend the Burn Bio volunteers that this project couldn't go ahead without them. They're so responsive and so dedicated, and most of them have studied archaeology as a result of the work they've been doing for me at Fenor and at Doolin, and so they're all well qualified as excavators. And so the dating samples that we've taken, we've dated now 6 of the 7 trenches that I showed you. This year's haven't been done yet. And from 17 different contexts within those trenches. And we select the samples for dating from secure contexts associated with some of the finds. And these are the dates that we have to date. I hope you can read the thing. On the bottom, it goes from 4,000 Cal BC up to 8,000 Cal BC. And you can see that most of the dates fall between 4,500 and 5,200 Cal BC. But we have some earlier ones at the top. The earliest up at the top there would be in the transition between the late Mesolithic and the early Neolithic. And then we have these 3 early Mesolithic dates as well. So just looking at the breakdown of the medians, this is for our 22 dates, this is what we have: the transitional date at the top, one slightly earlier than that, and 4 coming near the 4,500 mark, and then 11 in that category between 4,500 and 5,000 Cal BC, and a couple earlier. And then we have 3 dates a bit earlier than that. So I'll just go back to the chart again and have a look. So just looking at the top one, we'll just look a bit closely at the later dates there. The top 2 dates there are the 2 layers that I showed you. The top layer was the later date, and the layer with the blank was just up to 300 to 400 years earlier, 200 to 300 years, 400 years earlier. So there's a long time span between those two. But what was really good for us was that it validated our stratigraphy as we found it on the site. And that gave us confidence with our other dates that we were getting good dates. And the third date there, which is over a little bit, comes from the same context as the one above it, but that's a shell from that date. And when you put in the marine effect, it moves that date across under the one above it. So again, validating the date that we had. And then, as I say, as we go eastwards across the site, the dates tend to be slightly earlier, all around the 5,000, 4,800 to 5,000 Cal BC. The early dates, when we got the first one, we were, not expecting it. And then we got the two other dates that validated that, if you say, that sort of corroborated it. And if you think about, we shouldn't really be surprised if you think about the early Mesolithic cremation excavated by Tracy Collins on the Shannon, not that far away, with an early Mesolithic shale axe. So there's no reason to think they were not making them down in Doolin at that time as well. Just showing you a few of the samples where the samples came from. This is one of the contexts with two broken roughouts and flakes there, and the sample dated there 4,000, almost 5,000 BC. Another very large group of flakes with a roughout. You're only looking at about a third of the flakes there that came out of that particular concentration of flakes. Again, with nearly 4,900 Cal. They're the medians I'm showing you. Sorry. And then another one there with a hammerstone roughout and a couple of flakes. Good date again there. The sample, securely with those. And then one of the earlier ones, a small group of flakes that had that early date with it. So the significance of the dates are that it confirms that this site is Mesolithic stone axe manufacture going on at this site. And that site was always assumed to be Neolithic or Bronze Age, because stone axes are always put into the Neolithic in Ireland, much to mine and Peter Woodman's always was a bone of contention with him. So I think this strengthens the case for suggesting a Mesolithic date for stray finds of stone axes, especially when found near the seashore or lakes or rivers or bogs. I think we really have to consider a Mesolithic date for them. And the dating of the different knapping events across the site will allow a better understanding of the Mesolithic axe and other tool manufacturing strategies in Ireland over time. And the site also highlights the value of surveying and monitoring this type of site, which, sometimes are not investigated enough. There's a lot of information to be found in them. So just the acknowledgements, the Royal Irish Academy for the dates, which is great, the National Monument Service and National Museum for the excavation licenses, and the Burren Bio Trust volunteers, who I can't say enough about, and the Field Monument Advisor Programme, which I'm part of, and the landowner. So I think that's about it. I hope I haven't gone over my 20 minutes.